During the week when I would think about how this episode would go, I actually came up with a really funny opener to the video where I would basically rant about how bullshit it is that Dragonic Waterfall, arguably the most broken single card in Standard, basically just gets shafted for one of Standard's most okay to mediocre cards. And then I would lead into that in reality they did something to make it really feel like Kai pushed Ren to the edge, that the fight was so epic Ren needed his magic powers in order to make a comeback and win the game. Maybe something like, what if he damage checks all his heal triggers, or maybe he has just enough cards to guard and know that Kai won't get the trigger. Something cool like that. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. They kind of didn't even try, and so here I am with no openers. I wonder what I'm doing with my life, and oh god, I'm so lonely. So this card fight didn't work at all. And look, before anyone gets mad or triggered, I'm not saying I'm losing faith in the series. I'm not saying this turned me off of anything. I just think the way this thing was handled was a misstep. And the real reason for the misstep, I think, is that they've spent a lot of time building up that this show kind of takes place in something similar to the real world. So they don't really want to build up this epic fantasy magic thing for the final fight. They just want to keep it, close. But I still think you need to, raise the stakes and make the tension feel bigger, which this kind of didn't do, and it sucks, because it actually had a lot of easy opportunities. First up, let's just start off right with Kai's turn when he went into Waterfall. So Dragonic Waterfall is actually kind of a no-brainer card for setting up a big epic situation. Let's take a look at its artwork for a sec. Now this thing, in my opinion, has one of the best looking VRs in the whole goddamn game. I'm not a huge fan of the SVR artwork, as I don't think Dragonic Waterfall's color scheme goes well with the red background. But as far as the VR goes, this card the artwork conveys how powerful this card is without needing things like a lot of blades on him, or a big scary roaring pose, or anything like that. It's the simple, elegant image of a dragon standing proud and tall with his sword by his side, as you just see the energy and waves of power emanating from him. It's a really effective image. And then when the card is summoned, we get none of that. He plays it, and it's very stagnant. It doesn't move much, and we don't even see the mouth till, it attacks. And by that point, we already knew Kai wasn't winning in that turn, so it didn't really matter. The thing is that I wanted to feel like Kai could really push Ren to the edge, and I didn't, because when Waterfall attacks, Ren could take the 3 damage no problem. And, it sucked, because I just really didn't get any sense of epicness from the whole thing. In the original series, when we had virtually the same fight, and Kai used Dragonic Overlord at the end, you really felt the power of the situation. Here was this huge-ass, big-weaponed, roaring behemoth coming at this other roaring behemoth, and then Ren plays another roaring behemoth, and you just really feel the tension in the situation. But here, there really isn't any of it. If Ren was at 4 or 5 damage and that triple crit attack actually was going to do something, it would have been a lot more exciting. But as it stands, I've taken the risk and survived a triple critical waterfall attack. It's not that hard. I just sort of felt like, what if he rode the Overlord and then next turn rode the Waterfall? Make the card fight go on another turn or 2 longer, because honestly, let's be real here, that would probably have been the better play. Now you can make the argument maybe Kai just wanted to push it to game, but I didn't feel like that was really represented well. And then you move on to Ren's final turn, and it also is very lackluster, because when he rides Phantom Blaster Dragon, once again, it's just not that exciting. The card doesn't really roar, it doesn't really do anything. It grabs Waterfall by the neck, which is cool, but there's no tension to it. Waterfall doesn't look like he's in pain. He's not even moving, and there's no attempt to show the grip on the neck. It's just the hand over the neck. It's not particularly exciting, and then we just breeze through the rest of the scene like it's nothing. Ren just plays a bunch of cards. Also, Nemen's artwork is really slutty. I actually hadn't seen its revitalized art. They took out all the creep factor from it. But it's he does a damage dealing effect. damage dealing is actually kind of a big deal. Now, yes, for a lot of damage inflicting cards, it's kind of almost a little gimmicky at points, like, say, Rex for Tachikazes, or, like, say, the Samuel for Royal Paladins. It's not super hard because a lot of times you need that counterblast for next turn anyways, and by taking it as effect, you can just, like, get ready to guard all the attacks. But in this scenario, it really should have felt like a big deal. Like when Ren first did a damage-inflicting effect at the end of Season 3 of the last series. You feel how big a deal it is that he could just be like, boom, you got a damage, you're one step closer to losing. Here I am with my psychic powers! That's not here, and then when the attack goes through, it doesn't really have any level of epicness to it. It just felt like any other card fight, and this is supposed to be our lead-in to the big one. And it just really didn't have any weight. And it's not just the... Because you make the argument maybe they're saving the money for something else, but even the way the script is kind of handled I think is a little choppy. You have Tetsu in the background, like, sort of talking about, no, Psyqualia does not give you the power to control triggers. What the fuck does it do? All anyone's done when they refer to Psyqualia is give these very vague explanations of how it works without really any context to how we, the audience, should perceive it. You can make the argument that that is to make it seem mysterious, but it's already a weird magic psychic power in a more realistic world. That mystery is already there. If you just want to give us that short, simple explanation of it lets him, like, really see how his strategy is going to go, or it lets him control the pace of the game. There, that's it. That's all you need. You don't need someone on the corner just constantly distracting everyone with more exposition that only clogs and confuses the situation. It really didn't help at all. And then you move on to when the fight is over, and we get a scene that's kind of hilarious because it's extremely homoerotic. Like, listen to some of these lines. Ren's saying things like, "You ruined Kai, you defiled him. He's the perfect man and now I'll never know." And then you have, like, Kai who's trying to protect Aichi's innocence. And then you have, like, Aichi who's like, "Me and Kai had a special encounter." It is, oh boy, yeah. Yaoi fanfiction writers have a ball with this. But even when Ren is yelling at everyone, it doesn't really have any weight to it. Now, I like that Ren passes out after the fight, showing that he too is, like, in danger from his own insanity, but they don't really show off said insanity. Ren's face doesn't really, like, get crazy or obsessive or anything. It's just a very straightforward expression as he's basically yelling to this kid over kind of nothing. And when you don't really show anything on Ren's face, it kind of just makes the whole thing feel like what it is, and that's some weirdo teenager being an asshole. And not only that, you have, like, Aichi's face, which is kind of hilarious, as he's just looking at Ren like, this dude's crazy. Like, Aichi really should just call the police. Like, that's how this whole thing should end. From there, I think things do pick up quite a bit. I like the Aichi and Misaki hug. I know I just joked about the gay stuff, but I actually really liked this bit. Rather they feel like they're gonna hook Aichi and Misaki up, I almost think is immaterial. Like, yeah, you can insinuate what you want from it, but remember, a few hours ago, Misaki was very protective of Aichi, like, very scared. But here, as she sees him, like, really stand up for himself, she accepts that he's got to be the fight. And it's also important that she's the one who sets him off and, like, tells him you can do it, because she's the one who's gone through the most, rather it be with Ren or having to develop a sense of family with everyone with the rest of the cast. So I think that's actually a very important bit, and I really like the two monologues we get from them. Ren gives this monologue about having an abusive father, and how he was told there was only power and the strong and the weak, and how all he wanted to do was to beat Kai so he could get that strength. And then you have Aichi, who's basically giving the polar opposite. He's talking about how just having fun and card fighting, like, helped him meet friends and, like, develop relationships and bonds and people to care for and people who care about him, and how that's where his strength comes from. It doesn't come from hatred or anger, it just comes from the want to have people in your life. It's a really great pair of scenes, and I really like the way they contrast. I wish that creativity was in the rest of this episode. But yeah, no, that's that. And then the final scene where they're in, like, the Coliseum kind of brings the gayness back, where it's just like, oh, I thought I was alone here. Now you can see this place. I don't know, maybe I'm stretching with that last one, but that's how I saw it. But in the comment section below, tell me what you thought of this episode. I'm not trying to really badmouth anything. I just felt like this was a bit of a misstep. And as for the Vanguard question of the week, what would you have done in that situation that Kai was in? It really isn't an easy one, and you have to take that gamble, but I'm always for more consistent plays rather than necessarily a big final gamble. But I can understand someone wanting to take the gamble. Tell me that below, and as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and let's see if there will be more gay innuendos next week.